I'm having so many, and I mean absolutely entirely too many technical difficulties for this. This is the first time I'm going to do this. This is the Geek Out and Smokeout. We are going to discuss the common topics of things and then discuss what is the main deal with what's going on right now in Star Wars. Because, man, it's dropping. So, just to let y'all know, we're going to start this off on a good note so that way we can be a little bit on the happy side. Let's get into what's going on in Mandalorian. Now, from, my perspective, I have a very strong feeling that Thrawn has possibly either Beskar armor or troopers that are using Beskar armor or legitimate Mandalorians. And they're helping him. And Thrawn sent them to rescue Moff Gideon. That's a theory that I've been, and I'm pretty sure something along those lines is actually what is going on. And the reason why I'm pretty sure of that is because we know for a fact that Thrawn is going to be in the Ahsoka series. We know for a fact who they've casted and everything else. So when it's all said and done, we're talking about absolutely extraordinary thing that could ever happen to Star Wars. Okay? But let's talk about all these horribly, horribly canceled movies. Like there's let's actually there are 12 canceled Disney Star Wars films. There are 12. See, so Ryan Johnson had an unnamed trilogy that he was going to do. That was more than likely going to suck very badly. And I mean very badly. So, most of the dumb things that you see in the sequel trilogy actually came from Ryan Johnson. Um, let's see. Then we got they were gonna actually do a Duel of Fates movie. That might have been good. The Boba Fett movie. Um, I would have hope that that would be good. That was one of those characters that everybody was wanting to see come back. There was very few people who was not wanting to see it come back. So, or see him come back. Say it like it's. But anyway, let's go ahead. I'm gonna click on this video. I'm gonna pull it up right here. No. You know what I'll do? Alright. Now, let's see. There we go. Alright. Let's go ahead and I'm going to start this video. It's by the film club here. There'll probably a whole bunch of talking. So, let's bear with that. But let's see here. We got the George Lucas trilogy. Let's hear about this.
And had already begun writing it. However, he was also about to have a daughter with his wife, Melanie Hobson, and he was also planning to open a Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. This led him to make the difficult choice to put his focus on his family and museum ahead of a sequel trilogy, and ultimately, George sold Lucasfilm to Disney for over $4 billion. As part of this deal, Lucas sold his plans for episodes 7, 8 and 9 to Disney. Disney subsequently ignored George's idea and chose to go their own way with the universally loved and definitely not controversial sequel trilogies featuring Rey Palpatine, Kylo Ren, Finn and Poe. The details for George's plan for the sequels can be found in a book, Star Wars Archives, 1999 to 2005. Inside the book, there is a transcript of an interview between George and the book's author, Paul Duncan, in which George lays out the outline for episodes 7, 8 and 9. George's sequels would have taken place a few years after the Return of the Jedi, with the focus being on rebuilding the galaxy after the rebels claimed victory against the Empire. George makes a comparison to the Iraq War, saying, "Rebuilding afterwards is harder than starting a rebellion or fighting the war. The remaining stormtroopers would refuse to give up when the rebels won and would go..."
That. Perfect. That would have been super amazing. No. Why did this happen? Why did this not happen? Better question, why did this not happen?
Go to a far corner.
Made me choke on my damn drink.
Of the galaxy, starting their own rebellion against the new republic that the rebels had formed. Also, Darth Maul is back as the antagonist of the trilogy. I think most people are aware that Darth Maul didn't die in The Phantom Menace. He was in fact brought back in Season 4 of the Clone Wars animated show in early 2012, which was before George sold Star Wars to Disney. So George's ideas for the sequels were already being sewn into Star Wars canon by the Clone Wars animated show. George also revealed that Darth Talon from the EU comics would be trained by the now very old Darth Maul as his apprentice.
That would have been awesome. That would have been fucking amazing. You know, feminists were wanting a really strong female lead, right? But they kept putting out these things. They did not want this. This would have been a very badass Sith. Just to watch the battles between her and the new Jedi would have been fucking amazing. Like, because you don't know how they would have went with it for real, to be honest with you. But if they would have taken parts where, like, you know, Mara Jade and Luke ended up together, and they ended up having kids, and, you know, we got Jace and Jaina Solo, and that would have been perfect. It would have been the most perfect of things. No. They wanted to go this really goofy ass route that they went, and it didn't make no sense. It never really. Actually, most of the stuff that Disney got their fingers fucked around in just never made any sense. Most of it just didn't. It was. I don't know, like, it seemed like a virtue signal.
Would become the godfather of the criminal underworld as he takes advantage of the power vacuum that the Empire's defeat created. He unites these dispersed criminal groups under his leadership. George goes further to say that the prequels were about the father, Anakin, the originals were about the son, Luke, and the sequels would be about the daughter, Leia, and the grandchildren, so most likely Han and Leia's children. Leia would then lead the Republic and wrestle control over various planets from Maul's gangsters, whilst Luke would be restarting the Jedi Order, training young children in the ways of the Force. Leia would fight the Stormtrooper variants and claim victory over Maul. George also says that Leia would be the chosen one, not Anakin or Luke, and at the end of the trilogy, she would become Supreme Chancellor. Now there's part of George's sequels that I love. It's clear to see that there's a storyline from episode 1 to episode...
That would have been perfect. Perfect. Absolutely fantastic. Wonderful. But no. We gotta be fucking dumbasses and let fucking some bitch who has a goddamn grudge against the fandom. That's the only fucking thing that makes any sense about Kathleen Kennedy. I'm gonna say the bitch who shall not be named's name. Just for fucking namesake in this moment in time. This bitch has a chip on her shoulder when it comes to Star Wars. I hope she doesn't fucking have a dislike for Indiana Jones, or otherwise we're fucked in that too. I truly, strongly believe she has a fucking grudge against the fandom. I really do, because she did more than just bring it down. She unraveled it completely.
Episode 9, something that the Disney sequels are certainly missing. Padme's daughter Leia, following her mother's footsteps in the Senate and rising to the very top, and Luke rebuilding the Jedi Order after his father, Anakin, had destroyed the Order on Coruscant. I also love the fact that we get to see the establishment of the Republic, and Luke and Leia playing a key role in George's version of the sequels. As for the villains, Darth Maul and Darth Talon would play as interesting Siths, as Maul would now be the Master, after years of hiding in the shadows waiting until the right time to rise up, and Talon would have brought an interesting dynamic as the first female Sith to appear in the Star Wars films. I also enjoy the potential...
Oh! In their attempts of virtue signaling, they destroyed the chance at actually having something.
Potential freeway tussle between Maul's criminal underworld, the Stormtrooper remnants, and Leia's Republic. These factions fighting with and against each other remind me of hour-long battles I've had playing the board game Star Wars Risk, with deals being made, betrayals, and uneasy alliances possibly taking place.
That's what I want in my life. I want that because it is fucking awesome.
Between the three factions. George's sequels, on paper, seem to treat the legacy characters such as Leia and Luke with more respect than the Disney sequels did. I think it's also interesting to note that there are some similarities with the Disney sequels and George's plans. Firstly, Darth Maul returning from the dead, like Palpatine did in The Rise of Skywalker. Yes, the groundwork for Maul's return was set in place by the Clone Wars, but it's interesting to note that both Disney and George didn't create a new big bad for the sequels. Also, the Stormtroopers retreating to their own remote planets in a far corner of the galaxy and resisting the New Republic, although not explained at all really in the Disney sequels, the novels and expanded lore show that the First Order are formed in a similar way. They regroup in a far corner of the galaxy and then oppose the New Republic once their numbers are increased. Anyway, what do you make of George Lucas's take on episodes 7, 8 and 9? Is it better?
It's way fucking better, and you know, whoever, like, I'll be real with you. Like, whoever signed off on what it was, I just want to be like,
you son of a bitch.
Because it is one of the most crucial mistakes they have made in the sequel trilogy, was sidelining her character so much. He should definitely not be who he is. She shouldn't even fucking exist. He could have been one of the greatest fucking Jedis they ever made. Like, he could have been a really good, cool Jedi. He could have, he's not a real character, but they could have still had him. Like, his character still made sense. How they sidelined him as fucking Poe Dameron's little tag along fucking pissed me off so much. He was supposed to be trained by her. That was somebody else's take. Not his, but I would have loved his take, and if he had him, it would have been pretty decent. I mean, if he would have in his world, you know, and the one that he would make, he would have had to been trained by Luke, same as her. She existed. She was not Ray Palpatine, but just some orphan from the desert. She could have more likely had that, you know, familiarity with Luke, and Luke might wanted to like make her his prize student or whatever by focusing more on her training or whatever. Even made this dude all pissed off, but challenged him more to push the dark side from himself and become even greater in power and strength, and thus being even stronger than her, etc., doing all kinds of shit. They could have done so many different things. So many different things other than that whack ass shit that there was very few people, and I tried my damnedest to love this shit. I really did. It was just horrible. Absolutely horrible. So, what's my opinion? I wish like hell I could go to the world between worlds and fucking change this shit from ever happening. Meaning getting rid of Kathleen Kennedy. Her mama got shot with that load that got rid of her. Or that got her into this world, I mean. Jesus Christ. This woman, it just annoys the absolute shit out of me how she's fucked everything up.
Than the Disney sequels we got. Next up, for cancelled film number 4, is Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron. Now I assume we all remember the now infamous Rogue Squadron teaser trailer from December 2020, where Patty Jenkins says that since the death of her father, who was a fighter pilot in the US military, she has wanted to make the greatest fighter pilot movie of all time, and now she could, with her new Star Wars film, Rogue Squadron. Well, unfortunately, this teaser is all we ever got regarding Rogue Squadron. There is not too much information on why this film was cancelled, with contradictory reports flying around the internet. Some saying that Patty Jenkins' schedule was too busy to allow her to make Rogue Squadron, and others saying that after she received notes on her initial script, she walked away from the project. Further reports...
Yeah, because Kathleen Kennedy probably fucking made it absolutely unbearable. The character was just reaching for stuff, saying things that just were too over dramatic and insinuating specific things. That's the calling card of Kathleen Kennedy. And she's just not fit. She's just not fit. I have tried my best to see her vision of Star Wars. I really have. I've really tried to see people that she's got as cronies. I've really tried to see their way, but they seem like they're out to do something malicious. They don't seem like they're out to make money. They don't seem like they're out to grow Disney content. It seems like they want to destroy it. It really absolutely seems like they hate everything to do with Star Wars. And if they hate it, why are they even allowed to fuck with it? Like, if someone hates something, they should not be allowed to destroy it for other people. And that's literally what she's doing. She's literally destroying Star Wars. That's not something that I'm saying to just say to be dramatic about it. That's legitimately what's happened with her. They haven't produced a movie since that horrible trilogy, and it's starting to come back on them. It's starting to bite them in the ass.
Reports allude to Patty Jenkins' apparent ego, as there was now rumour that Jenkins also left Wonder Woman free as the studio didn't like her vision for the movie. Now it's worth bearing in mind that these are rumours, and Patty Jenkins disputes these in the following open letter. She said, and I quote from the letter, "I originally left Rogue Squadron after a long and productive development process, when it became clear it couldn't happen soon enough, and I did not want to delay Wonder Woman 3 any further." Her letter goes on to say, "Lucasfilm asked me to consider coming back to Rogue Squadrons after Wonder Woman 3, and they made a new deal with me. In fact, I'm still on it, and the project has been in development ever since. I don't know if it will happen or not." This is basically a messy way of saying there were creative differences. Now there's not much detail on what Rogue One would be about, other than what Patty Jenkins said in her teaser, that it would be a fighter pilot film, similar to that of Top Gun Maverick.
It would have been badass because it would have been literally what he said. Top Gun in space. It would have been fucking dope as fuck. Man. Telling you, it would have been awesome. That one would have been awesome as well. See, that's another one.
Synopsis for Rogue
Shouldn't have been cancelled.
We are introduced to a new generation of starfighter pilots as they earn their wings and risk their lives in a boundary-pushing, high-speed thrill ride that moves the saga into the future era of the galaxy. In an interview with IGN, Patty Jenkins revealed that the movie would not be an adaptation of the well-loved Rogue Squadron video games or novels.
We're doing something original with great influence from the games and from the books. You know, like there's a lot of things being acknowledged and understood about the greatness of all of those things. But yes, it's an original story, and I'm so psyched to do it.
The Rogue Squadron games took place during and after the original films, and featured Luke Skywalker and Wedge Antilles. And although Jenkins said it wouldn't be an adaptation of the novels or games, you would imagine that it would take place in a similar timeline, featuring all, if not most, of the game and novel characters. Cancelled film number 5, Josh Trank's Boba Fett. In 2014, Lucasfilm and Josh Trank were working on a Boba Fett film. The movie was cancelled in 2015 as Josh Trank quit the project, 11 days after he didn't turn up to a scheduled panel at Star Wars Celebration due to sickness. Rumour at the time was that Josh Trank was dabbling in unsavoury and erratic behaviour whilst working on the 2015 film Fantastic Four. Further rumours went on to say that Kennedy was due to remove him from the project imminently if Trank didn't quit. Josh said his decision to leave the project was partly due to the negative public scrutiny he faced from working on the Fantastic Four film. We can assume that perhaps some of the ideas for the Boba Fett film were recycled and used in the 2021 Disney Plus show The Book of Boba Fett. Early in the Disney Star Wars era, Lucasfilm seemed to be going in a spin-off direction with their films, with Rogue One and Solo focusing on one-off stories in and around the original trilogy era. Solo put the nail in the coffin for that cinematic route, and now Disney seem to be focusing on Disney Plus shows that take place between episode 6 and 7. Cancelled film number 6 is Colin Trevorrow's episode 9 titled Duel of the Fates. Trevorrow was initially announced to helm the final film in the sequel trilogy. The title of the film was Duel of the Fates, a nice homage to the great John Williams tune at the end of The Phantom Menace. Kennedy was unhappy with Trevorrow's initial script, and some more rewrites later.
That shit's so funny because fucking the way I think almost every person in this world who has actually listened to the Duel of Fates score has done some wild ass Weird Al Yankovic style fucking pun at or play at the actual score. It's just one of those things that are fucking hilarious.
Neither party were happy with the finished script, and Trevorrow was removed from the project. J.J. Abrams stepped in and delivered episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. I think there's rare common ground between the sequel lovers and sequel haters, that the episode 9 we got was certainly not a good film, and it's interesting to see what Trevorrow's version would have been. Trevorrow's scripts were leaked and confirmed as being authentic, and in these leaks, we got a really detailed view of how Trevorrow's episode 9 would have gone. Here's a summary of the leaked plot. I say summary, it's quite long.
2,000 years
But as this is one of the only times we get to see a full script of a scrap Star Wars film, I think it's worth going into some detail. So, Episode 9 takes place several years after the events of The Last Jedi. General Hux is Chancellor and takes control of Coruscant. The First Order prevent outer planetary communication as they want to stop the rebels, resistance, from growing. Rey, Finn, Poe and Rose steal a Star Destroyer from the First Order and use it against the First Order with an assault on Coruscant led by General Leia Organa. Kylo Ren discovers a Sith holocron in Darth Vader's castle on Mustafar, which leads him to seek the training of a 7,000-year-old alien named Tor Valum. Tor Valum taught Emperor Palpatine's master, Darth Plagueis, the ways of the Sith. During his training, Kylo kills Tor Valum, and in the meantime, Rey has finished constructing a dual-bladed lightsaber, combining her staff and Anakin's broken blue saber. Finn, Rose, R2-D2 and C-3PO go to Coruscant to find a device that can restore galactic communication, while Rey, Chewie and Poe go to another planet in order to find the location of the planet Mortis. Now Mortis was in an ethereal realm that existed outside any star system, with many believing it to be where the Force was originated from. Mortis makes its only canon appearance in a Clone Wars animated show, Season 3, Episode 15 to 18. Next we see Lando and many smugglers agree to join the rebels. Resistance. For an attack on Coruscant. Throughout the movie, Force Ghost Luke appears to Kylo, berating and taunting his nephew, and Luke also appears to Rey and encourages her when she doubts herself. On Coruscant, Finn manages to recruit more stormtroopers to the rebel side. Resistance side, whilst Rey, Poe and Chewie locate Mortis. They are attacked by the Knights of Ren, who they ultimately defeat. Rey uses Force Lightning to kill one of the Knights, after she remembers that they were the ones who killed her parents. She fears that she's in danger of falling to the dark side, and departs for Mortis alone. With the help of droids, citizens and defective stormtroopers, Finn leads a revolution against the First Order's forces, while Leia, Poe, Chewie, Lando, and the Resistance army.
So this one actually sounds like it would have been actually pretty decent too, but it still strays away from so much shit.
See, got there in the end. Arrive to join the fight, and the First Order is ultimately defeated. Hux kills himself with a purple-bladed lightsaber. On Mortis, Rey fights Kylo, but he blinds and nearly kills her. Luke Skywalker's Force Spirit supports Rey, and she confronts Kylo for a second time. Rey says her masters were wrong to reject the dark side, and embraces both the light and the dark, allowing her to defeat Kylo. Once defeated, Kylo attempts to kill Rey by draining her life force. Leia manages to contact him through the Force, and convinces Kylo to stop. Kylo then transfers his own life energy to Rey instead, healing her and saving her life at the cost of his own. Before Kylo dies, his last words reveal Rey's true birth name,
Rey Skywalker.
to be Rey Solana. On the verge of death, Rey meets with the spirits of Luke, Yoda and Obi-Wan, who allow her to choose between staying dead or returning to life. She chooses the latter. Finn, Poe, Rose and Chewie receive medals at the Resistance base. Finn and Rose get together and raise Force sensitivity.
Much glove. That's funny. Nah, I don't have gloves. I don't really wear gloves. This version of Star Wars would have been cool, you know. This would have been a good way to end that trilogy, but I'm telling you, that trilogy was shit. It was shit.
Cancelled film, or in fact, his entire cancelled trilogy. Cancelled films 7, 8 and 9, the Rian Johnson trilogy. In 2017, there was a plan for Rian Johnson to direct a trilogy outside of the Skywalker saga. It seemed that Kathleen Kennedy and those at Lucasfilm loved working with Rian Johnson on Episode 8, and when The Last Jedi came to the end of its production cycle, Rian pitched the following idea.
A new trilogy, 3 movies, 1 story, new characters, new places. Let's start fresh.
Now the details are sparse on what this trilogy would be about, and when in a Star Wars timeline it would take place, but we do know it wouldn't carry on the main Skywalker timeline. Now, it's worth noting that these plans were set in place before the general public got to see Johnson's Episode 8, The Last Jedi. And as we know, The Last Jedi certainly wasn't short of controversy and was pretty unanimously hated by Star Wars fans. When The Last Jedi was released, the wheels of his trilogy started to come off straight away. The Last Jedi brought in 35% less than its predecessor, The Force Awakens, and suffered a steep second-week decline of 67%, compared to The Force Awakens, which received a 40% decline on second week. This suggests that the repeat viewing The Force Awakens received wasn't replicated for The Last Jedi. The reception from movie critics for The Last Jedi was incredible, scoring 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. However, that's less than half the picture.
This guy right here is one of the cronies I was talking about, that Kathleen Kennedy, the bitch who shall not be named, really, but I'm naming her ass because, yet again, namesake. She's got a lot of cronies, and he's one of them. I'm pretty sure of it.
Picture, as a Rotten Tomatoes audience score currently sits at 42%, with over 100,000 ratings being counted. If we look beyond the box office, the real impact of The Last Jedi can be seen. There are hundreds and thousands of videos made by Star Wars fans claiming that The Last Jedi was the most divisive and disappointing Star Wars film since the prequels. Star Wars toy sales reached an all-time low post The Last Jedi, and the positivity and energy created from The Force Awakens seem to have all but died with the fan backlash to Ryan's film. This, combined with Rian Johnson,
because I was really digging it, man. I was really digging the way The Force Awakens opened up. I was like, yeah, this is likable. This is really likable. But I was really hoping they were taking Finn into being a Jedi too. Like, wouldn't it have been so cool if he had like a yellow lightsaber? Or purple. Cool.
Johnson's inability to get off Twitter and help stir the controversy pot meant that the mere mention of Ryan's name caused a big disturbance in the Force for many Star Wars fans. Lucasfilm, knowing the taint that Rian Johnson carries with the Star Wars fanbase, have been very quiet on his trilogy ever since its announcement 5 years ago. For many years, Rian Johnson vehemently denied that his trilogy was shelved, but now even Rian Johnson seems to be coming across to the reality that his trilogy won't happen. A few months ago, he said the following when speaking to IndieWire: "I'm hoping I get to do it, and it would break my heart if I were finished, if I couldn't get back into that sandbox at some point." The official Lucasfilm line is that Ryan's trilogy has been indefinitely postponed, whilst Johnson works on the Knives Out films for Netflix. Quite simply, there is no way in hell that Lucasfilm want to reopen The Last Jedi wound that irrevocably split the fan base in 2017. Giving The Last Jedi's creator Rian Johnson 3 more films to write and direct would cause such a PR catastrophe for Lucasfilm, making his trilogy of Star Wars films a dead-in-the-water non-starter. Cancelled films number 10, 11 and 12 are the D.B. Wise and David Benioff trilogy, were set to take place way before the 9 Skywalker films and set in the Old Republic era, focusing on the origins of the Jedi. In summer 2019, Benioff and Wise met with George Lucas to help guide their films, but in October the same year, it was announced that the pair would no longer be working on their Star Wars trilogy. Earlier in that year, May 2019, Disney released its theatrical release schedule, which planned for 3 unnamed Star Wars films to hit cinemas in 2023, 2025, and 2027. Perhaps these were Benioff and Wise's trilogy, or perhaps they were Rian Johnson's trilogy. Similar to Josh Trank leaving the Boba Fett film, there are conflicting reports as to why Benioff and Wise left their Star Wars project. Now, the pair are known for adapting George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones books into the cultural phenomenon HBO series of the same name from 2011 to 2019. The pair seemingly rushed last season, Season 8, and refused HBO's offer to have more episodes in the final season, which only contains 6 episodes, 1 less than the amount of episodes in Season 7, and 3 less than the 10 episodes Season 1 to Season 6 had. The reason for the rush to finish Game of Thrones was due to the two being worn out from working on Thrones all those years, which is understandable as it took over a decade of their lives from start to finish. However, it now very much seems like...
Yeah, so The Old Republic, in my opinion, is probably one of the best stories that can be told. I would have really loved to see their take on it. I honestly hope if they did not have, the story of Revan being told in it, yeah, then I don't know what the fuck they would be doing. Because to be honest with you, let me do a dab real quick. Look at it. It smells like, and then it's called the Lemon Walker OG. So it's like some instead of Skywalker, it's Lemon Walker. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The way it looks when it melts. Man. Damn.
They made a poor choice, as the final season of Game of Thrones is certainly a massive step down from the previous seasons. Perhaps a negative critical and fan response to Benioff and Wise's final Game of Thrones season placed doubt in Kennedy's mind on the pair's ability to pull off a Star Wars trilogy. Kennedy's faith in the two was further reduced when they agreed a $200 million deal with Netflix in August 2019. The pair had supposedly told Netflix that they would work on a Star Wars trilogy and whatever they were going to do with Netflix simultaneously. Kennedy not believing that they could juggle a trilogy whilst working on TV and film projects for Netflix.
About to say something that may or may not be even controversial for me inside of myself. But I feel like that was the first smart thing Kathleen Kennedy ever did. Here's why I feel like that might be the case. Now, they did work for a very long time. And see exactly how many years, seasons. 2019. I'm trying to add up how many years it would take to make a decent one particular movie, you know, and I think it would be around the same time frame. Yeah, it seems like it would be around the same time frame that Game of Thrones was doing. So if they couldn't handle Game of Thrones and they got drained on it, because you could tell they loved Game of Thrones by the way it went. You can tell that was something that they truly enjoyed. But then you got them wanting to do this. No, I'm sorry, but that one I would have to be inclined to agree with Kathleen Kennedy. It's probably the only smart thing she's ever done in her life. That was truly smart.
decided to pull the trigger on the two, and that is how a potential Old Republic trilogy got squashed before any real development could be made. So in summary, the criticisms of Disney Star Wars led by Kathleen Kennedy having no overarching plan for the franchise, firing directors left, right and centre, and coming across as making the same mistakes time and time again, I believe to be valid criticisms. To cancel 12 movies in under 12 years is shocking. To reject George Lucas's ideas in favour of an unplanned...
It's the whole time and time again thing that's getting me, though. That's what makes me have that theory that she just intentionally... Just, it really seems that way. And I'm hoping, like, Village, really. Star Wars is something that I truly... It's just one of the many fandoms that I'm a part of. And that is just... It's just sad to see some of those that shouldn't exist. Or that... The stuff that shouldn't exist and the stuff that doesn't exist. It's sad. It's really sad. Because this should be here. This should be here. This definitely should be here. This should not be here. At all. This should not be here. This was alright. It wasn't that bad. It was kind of... Like, I had to rewatch it. And I could respect it on my second go at watching it. But my first time I watched it, I kind of like just... I kind of blamed it on my ADHD, to be honest with you. I just got bored with it. But fucking, we got Kenobi here, and thought they were gonna... second. It's just really nothing that tells me that would have been good or great at all. Well, anyway, I'm gonna call it here. You folks stay nice and stony. Actually be back tomorrow. This time, I know earlier. And I forgot all about it. But anyway, you folks stay nice and stony. I am out. Peace.